Well, hello again. It's me doing another physical media, Blu-ray, DVD, VHS video. Because why not? Because I like them. You seem to like them. It's exciting. It's a way to share. It's a way to be passionate about the thing that I love, movies. And in general, it's just a lot of fun. Wait a minute. Let me see. 1 second. Better. Okay. So, it's a way just to share stuff and be passionate about stuff and be happy about stuff. But I have a question which I feel like I've asked before, but I feel like I need to keep asking because I'm not sure. So one of the great things about having a room like this is being able to just put out all the movies that you want to put out, although I've kind of filled up all the space, so I need to figure out something else. But that's as maybe. One of the great things is you organize this more or less once. And unless, like I did the other week, I kind of went, well, I've got a handful of Walter Hill films now. I should sort of have a Walter Hill section. Unless you do things like that, in general, this is organized, will stay organized, is organized, etc. The problem is I like organizing and rearranging this. And I find myself currently, when I'm down here watching movies, sort of getting a little antsy and going, I kind of want to reorganize my movies. Now, the way I currently have them organized is, in my head, makes the most logical sense. So I ignore format to some extent. So I have DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, all kind of mixed in, which I know drives people crazy. VHS is separate, but that's more just because of how much room it takes up on the shelf. It just wouldn't fit on these particular shelves in a nice way. So VHS is separate, but DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, they're all here. And at the moment, I have it by genre, organized chronologically, and within the chronological system, that's sort of rough anyway, I have sections. So, for example, if I have a lot of vampire movies, they all go together. But because you've got, obviously, the Universal Dracula, Nosferatu, Hammer Horror Draculas and stuff like that, it's a very early genre, right? So that kind of goes to the top, because chronologically, but all the vampires together, so they all sort of fit together. And then if I have a ton of like Donald Pleasance movies or a ton of Wings Hauser movies, whether it's director, whether it's actor, Walter Hill, I just said, for example, within their respective genres that they're sort of known for. So Sam Raimi kind of came up in horror, and obviously I have a lot of different Evil Dead stuff. Within sort of horror, even though it's Sam Raimi went on to do obviously a Western and comic book movies and various other things, I have sort of a Sam Raimi section. I have a David Cronenberg section, even though obviously something like A Crash or History of Violence is not really horror, but because obviously his first movies like Shivers and Rabid and The Brood and stuff are, he stays in the horror section kind of chronologically, or, chronologically. And I put all the David Cronenberg stuff together and then related to David Cronenberg. So, for example, Scanners, David Cronenberg movie, but then I also have Scanners 2, Scanners 3, Scanner Cop, and Scanner Cop 2. So they kind of go on the end of the David Cronenberg movies, even though those are not David Cronenberg movies. So that's kind of how I have it organized. So I have genre first, chronological second, and then within that, I will break it up based on directors and actors and so on. This makes sense to me because my feeling is if someone comes around to watch a movie, or if I want to watch a movie, what's the first thing you say? The first thing you say is, I'm in the mood for an action film. So you go, oh, okay, action is down here. But within action, I'm in the mood for a Steven Seagal movie. I don't know why you would be, but let's just say you're in the mood for a Steven Seagal movie. I used to watch Steven Seagal movies way more than I watch Steven Seagal movies now. But let's just say you're in the mood for Steven Seagal movies. So you go, okay, good. I've put all my Steven Seagal movies together in the action section. The reason why this is good, right, and the reason why streaming is bad, is that when you go on streaming, right, unless you are on Shudder and you're just like, well, I want to watch a horror movie, and maybe Shudder has them organized by like zombie movies or slasher movies or whatever, which is sort of what I'm doing here. If you're just on a Amazon Prime or a Hulu or a Netflix or one of those, or Max or any streaming service. Yes, you can laboriously create lists of stuff you might want to watch, but you can only create generally one list. They don't allow you to like do a horror list and an action list and that would be great. They don't let you do that. But secondly, even creating the list requires just endless scrolling. There's always this idea with streaming that you're missing out on some sort of rich vein of movies that if you just put the right search term in the search engine, it would deliver you the movie you really want to watch, right? But you also do that thing when you're on streaming where as you're browsing, you sort of go through and you go, well, I'm kind of in the mood for that one. So you sort of add it to your watch list. Then you scroll a bit more and you're kind of in the mood for that one. And so on and so forth, until you have a watch list that you then go back to and you go, actually, I don't want to watch any of those. And, oh, it's 3 a.m. and I've got to go to bed. That's my problem with streaming, is I can't just be like, narrow it down for me, right? I suppose I could go into every single streaming service and be Steven Seagal movie and look it up like that, or Donald Pleasant movie or whatever, and be disappointed by the fact that no streaming service has enough of those. I know Tubi tries to like do the categories and things, but I also find Tubi so unwieldy. There's so many things on Tubi that it's just like, I don't know. I end up doing the same thing. I end up adding 30 movies to my watch list and then never watching them. The reason why I like this setup and why I love physical media over streaming every single time is if I go, I'm in the mood for an action movie and I'm in the mood for a Steven Seagal movie, there literally is only these 20 films or whatever that I have here that I can watch. That's all I can watch. I can't scroll around, browse around, blah, 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 blah. I know, because of the way I have my movies organized, that here are my Steven Seagal movies and that's what I want to watch. The trouble is this, is because every single format came out with different sized stuff. So for example, like with DVDs, there isn't just the single standard like plastic universal DVD case, right? There's like the snap case, which is slightly thinner. There are box sets, which are slightly, but not full box sets, but like, I don't know, someone decides to do, and I'm trying to find an example, but like sometimes, okay, so sometimes like a DVD box set will be like this, like Videodrome is like is a thick DVD box set. Naked Lunch, although it doesn't have the cardboard case, it has the plastic case, similarly a thicker case. And again, it's it's a beautiful set, 2-disc set and whatever, but it probably came out before they invented the like DVD cases that flip open like that allow you to have multiple discs in a thinner case. For example, the Crash is one of those snap cases ones, right? So that's a different width. And when you have a fixed shelf width, but then you have all these different movies in this way, you sort of, and you're coming to breaking point in terms of how many things you can fit in to each section of these things. I start to go, well, if I organized it by kind of size or by release, like I see a lot of people who all their Vinegar Syndromes are together and all their Arrows are together and all their Shout Factories are together and all the rest of it. Like if I organized it like that, maybe I would be utilizing my space better. Also, I would love to see what my collection would look like if I went, well, let me put all these types of discs, so, slipcases or Blue Underground all together or Arrow all together, whatever. If I did that, whether A, I would have more space, and B, whether it would be more visually interesting. Because the one thing that people generally don't like, and I don't mind it, but at the same time it does occasionally bother me, is that, all the heights are different, all the widths are different, all the packaging is different. And so I'm stuck always between this idea of my filing system, which I think is the easiest, because I go, well, I want a Donald Pleasance movie. I just go, boom, Donald Pleasance is here. It begins here, ends there, because I own about 50 Donald Pleasance movies. You go, oh, okay. So I know where to go. I limit myself. I narrow myself. But when I look at my Donald Pleasance section, I think to myself, like, well, if it was organized by all the Kino Lorber, because Kino Lorber surprisingly puts out a lot of Donald Pleasance, get on that Kino Lorber sale before it ends in mid-April, because there's a lot of Donald Pleasance. And I suggest that everyone owns a lot of Donald Pleasance. I think we've got Flesh and the Fiends is Kino Lorber, The Battle of the Sexes is Kino Lorber, The Great Escape is Kino Lorber, Soldier Blue is Kino Lorber, Kidnap, The Black Windmill, The Last Tycoon, lots of Kino Lorber in the Donald Pleasance section. So maybe I put them all together. But here's my thing. It would then look nicer, potentially. And it would maybe give me a little space, because sometimes you get to the end and you go, there's not enough space for like another DVD, but there is space. And it sort of bothers you because you kind of go, well, there's probably not enough space because I have Martin, which is a huge, thick, wide box set on the same rack as I have like a smaller Blu-ray like this. But then I also have the Arrow Blu-ray, the British Arrow Blu-ray of House by the Cemetery, which is slightly wider because for some reason Arrow has decided to do slightly wider cases. Similarly with Blue Underground cases, slightly wider. And what it starts to do is, instead of being a uniform thing where you go, I could probably fit, 30 Blu-rays in this little section with all the DVDs and everything else and the box sets and things like that, I can't. So I start to go round and round and round and think to myself, well, maybe if I organized it that way and maybe if I organized it this way. Also, I just like organizing things, and maybe I want to organize it the way I want to organize it. But who comes to their movie collection and goes, what I want to do is watch a horror movie or a Donald Pleasance movie or a Walter Hill movie or something, and then goes, well, wait a minute. Who put out Southern Comfort? Oh, it was Vinegar Syndrome. Well, I got to go to the Vinegar Syndrome section. Like, who thinks like that? I don't think like that. So it would look beautiful and it might give me more space. But then I'd be like, someone comes over and goes, I want a vampire movie. And I'd be like, well, there's 3 here. There's 2 here. There's 4 up here. There's some down here. And that's if I remember every single Blu-ray and DVD releasing company that ever put out a vampire movie. Just to give you an example, I'll show you all the vampire movies I have. So first of all, because Hammer has put out a lot of like box sets and whatever, I have all my sort of Hammer multiple film sets sort of all together, right? And then that comes down to here where this starts. And then you have, you've got the vampire set, which has Dracula, Prince of Darkness, 7 Golden Vampires on it there. And then you immediately go into the Prince of Darkness Blu-ray, Satanic Rites of Dracula, etc., 7 Golden Vampires, Count Dracula, the Jess Franco version. Then you've got Blackula, Scream, Thirst, which is the Australian Ozploitation vampire film, Fright Night 2, Monster Squad, etc. And you can see they're all sorts of different sizes, right? So my vampire section is sort of this section here, right? And you can see there's different whatever. If I had those, like, first of all, the DVD releasing ones, like, yes, all right, we've got Columbia and MGM and whatever. DVDs was just released by all sorts of people. So first of all, I could only organize the DVDs by kind of packaging, right? Which would put Innocent Blood, which is in a snap case, in a completely different section to Fright Night and Count Dracula and Blackula and Scream, Blackula, Scream, etc., etc. It just... how would I do that? I just don't understand, And then I've got like my werewolves because Dracula's into werewolves. That makes sense to me. I understand that, right? I guess the point of all this is that if you are the sort of person who organizes their movies by releasing company or by packaging or whatever, tell me what you like about it. Tell me what the advantages are. Does my system make sense? Am I insane? Tell me. Am I crazy? So I'm stuck with a dilemma. Do I leave it as is and sort of go, well, at least I can find everything I want, but I've got that little tingly feeling of wanting to reorganize stuff and see if there's more space here than I'm actually utilizing and blah, 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 blah. Or do I completely reorganize it, gut it completely, and then get into a situation where I'm like, I can't find anything and have to reorganize it all back? Tell me in the comments. That's been my video. Have a great night, everybody.